Hi all, it's Kia of Kia Comments and I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to do a book review of a book called The Shore. It is by American author Sarah Taylor. She is based in the UK. I think she's in the middle of a PhD in creative writing fiction and censorship at the University of East Anglia. And this book was her dissertation for her master's degree, and it was subsequently longlisted for the Bailey's Prize for Fiction. And I heard about it on Mercedes' book channel, Mercysbookishmusings, and I had it coming in the mail before Mercedes talked about it, and I got even more excited to read it, and I read it immediately upon getting it in the mail. This book is set in Virginia on the Virginian East Coast, and the landmass that characters are on are three coastal islands known as the Shore, which is of course the book's namesake, Assateague, and Chincoteague. I think I'm pronouncing that last island's name correctly. The Shore spans 300 years and follows two families that are distantly connected and covers themes of love, hate, what it means to be family. It characterizes the shore. It reflects characters through the characterization of the physical place. We see young protagonists who have to deal with incest and violence. We see older protagonists. We see a bit of magical realism, or I would say rather the magical real, which is everyday occurrences that have rationales behind them that aren't necessarily logical. The book deals with ideas of race. The book also deals with some future and kind of science fiction ideas over the 300-year span. And in general, I found the book extremely compelling. That being said, I didn't love this book. And I keep trying to figure out why it was that this book by Sarah Taylor wasn't necessarily resonant with me in the way that books of this nature, that is to say, steeped in place and dealing with characters who you follow for a long time, and the book is also told in a non-linear fashion, which is something that I like. I'm trying to figure out why I didn't love all of those things put into this book. And I've come up with something that may be trite, but for me is true. And it's the fact that this book is really not a novel so much as it is a collection of short stories. And in the collection of short stories, though there were characters that were recurring, or there were characters who I found out about their backstory through their relatives, I was never really satisfied with what I got of the characters. And one would think that staying with characters in terms of the place that they're located, in terms of their ancestors, would be something that would provide depth for the characters. But in this case, for me, that didn't work. We start the book with a 13-year-old girl named Chloe, and we get a number of chapters between the initial first chapter, that is Chloe's chapter, where you find out about Chloe's familial history, Chloe's mother's story, the story of Chloe's father, and then later in the book, Chloe reappears as a grown woman. And even though I recognize the character, again, the story didn't stick with me as deeply as it should have. One of the big draws for me in this novel, aside from the way that place was rendered, was the way that the females in this novel were rendered. Though I wanted more depth and more layering to Chloe's character, I still felt as though she was believable because she doesn't necessarily do the right thing morally, but she does the human thing and she does the instinctive thing. Another female character that I really loved was Chloe's great grandmother, I think it's her great-great-grandmother, a woman named Medora, who is part Caucasian, part Native American Indian. And she has a wonderfully rendered story. She, too, doesn't necessarily make the correct moral decision, but she is trying to escape a father who is very dominating. And in escaping the father, she runs into the hands of a not very good man. And this not very good man and Medora make a not very sound or morally sound agreement, and she has to deal with the consequences of the agreement that she makes. And the way that she deals with it, again, like Chloe, though not necessarily the best choice, was a choice that I understood. I felt as though Sarah Taylor spent a lot of time showing readers a very realistic picture of women over the 300-year time span that this novel in short stories, I'm calling it a novel in short stories, depicts. And speaking of a novel in short stories, I have a question for you, the viewers. What do you like as readers? Do you like a defined label put on a book, as in a collection of short stories? Or do you like the pure novel? Or do you like the novel in short stories? This book by Sarah Taylor says a novel, but I feel as though each chapter really and truly stands as an individual short story. And if this had been called a collection of short stories, I wouldn't have batted an eyelash. I'm interested at what others think of this, not necessarily new marketing label, but just the idea of a novel being put out as something that seems less like what a reader may have come to recognize as a novel. You know, these episodic novels that I find really refreshing, it can be polarizing. Some people really don't appreciate the fact that they're termed as novel or novel in short stories when really they are just a collection. So any feedback or ideas on that, let me know in the comments below. Enough of that digression, getting back to the novel at hand, The Shore. Like I said before, I didn't love it. I found it really ambitious and appreciated it for that. And at the very least, it was compelling. If you like the idea of non-lineated narrative, if you like the idea of a novel in short stories, or a novel that isn't necessarily so tightly wound, this is something that you may want to check out. That's all. That's my review. Keep reading, keep watching, keep writing. Bye now.